Welcome to the Everyday Executive Woman, casual chats about real life as a woman and leader. The podcast where senior level women leaders share real life stories, struggles, and strategies to thrive personally and professionally. I'm your host, well woman executive coach, and brain rewiring expert, Lisa Michelle Smith. Join me for casual and candid conversations, relatable insights, and actionable guidance that will inspire and empower you to lead confidently, live healthily, and embrace your perfectly imperfect self. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I am your host, Lisa Smith, and I am here today with our guest, Georgie Marquez. And I want to just share briefly a little bit about Georgie. She is the principal owner at Andre and Marquez Architects, an architecture and interior design firm that's based in Norfolk, Virginia. Her husband, Joel Andre, is a minority owner with her, and together they oversee a team of 5 on various projects. She's also been involved in a lot of different business, civic, industry, and mentorship organizations, boards, and panels over the years. So, very busy woman. Sounds like you have your fingers in a lot of different pies. And on a personal note, Georgie is the mom of one, was born and raised in San Juan, Puerto Rico, has also lived in Mexico City, New York City, and Madrid, and currently resides with her husband and 2 cats in a 115-year-old home in Portsmouth, Virginia. So I'm sure you've got some stories about ownership with that kind of aged home. But welcome to the podcast, Georgie. I know we've been trying to plan this for a little bit. It had some illness hiccups, your end and my end, still getting over the flu, but
It's the time of the year.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So pleasure to finally be able to have
Yeah.
you on and learn a little bit more about you. So why don't you just start off with telling us a little bit about why and how you started your company, how long you've
Mhm.
been running it, and what are some of the key things that you focus on in the business?
Right. Well, we started the firm back in 1993. Um, we had been in Virginia. We originally went to school in New York City. That's where we met. We got married, and we actually worked in New York City for several years. Our son was born there. And then eventually we just wanted to move south, mostly to get away from the snow and the cold and the crazy city
Yeah,
life. And
I'm
so
from
when we first, yeah, so it was like, and the thing is here, there's a thread of snow and everything stops over there. There's tons of snow and nothing stops. You still have to take the child to the daycare center and get yourself on the train and make it to the office and everything. And so it was just a really hard lifestyle. And so we decided to explore different options. Virginia, for many different reasons, seemed to be the place to move to. So we moved here and we worked with different firms in the area. And eventually we decided, let's just give it a try on our own. And so we started, it was just my husband and I. We had a couple of clients that my husband was part of another firm and they sort of came along with us. And we started the room above the garage, and people would the clients would walk through my kitchen to come to the office. But that's how you start when you're little, when you're a small firm. And they knew it was literally a mom and pop store. And so we started that way. And then slowly we shared spaces with engineering firms, with other architecture firms, and then eventually we moved to our own space. And we've been here now. I was thinking about it the other day. We've been in this location for close to 20 years, which is pretty amazing. And it's just a really good location in Norfolk. And so we really appreciate it. And now we have quite a number of clients that come back to us all the time. And as we grew the firm, there was a time when we were as large as 12. And then we had some very large government projects. When those ended, we had to make a decision. We were like at a real crossroads. Do we grow, or do we go back and stay small and sort of manage it? We felt, just ourselves, and it just seemed less threatening. And so at the time we decided to stay small. And so we're now 8 to 7. Right now we're seven. But probably 8, 7 will be that we might be hiring one more person at some point here soon, because we're getting some new work. And so we might need some additional support, but we'll probably stay under 10. That's what's comfortable for us. So
Okay.
yeah, it's been an adventure.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So starting off as you were bringing more people in to help you in the business and have different roles in the business. What were some of the growing pains that you had with actually hiring and managing and leading other people within your business?
Um, I think personalities. There was a time when we had an issue, lessons learned, things that you learn. We did have at one time a situation where we had some conflicts between employees. We kept trying to resolve it, and eventually we realized that there were some people that needed to be let go. And I think when you're a small firm, it's really hard to take that step of, for the sake of the company, you might need to let some people go, and better for them and better for you. And then once we did it, it was like, phew, big relief. So lesson learned is that sometimes it's better to make that choice sooner rather than later. Save yourself and everybody else a lot of aggravation and a lot of pain. It's a hard thing to do, but it's almost like being a parent. Sometimes you have to make the hard choices of the tough love. It's
Yeah.
easy to give in, but sometimes you have to make some hard choices. And being a business owner, sometimes you have to make some hard choices of saying, this is not working. We need to part ways. And there's ways that you can do it so that you remain in friendship with the person, and you sort of like help them move on to the next thing.
Mm.
And that was a difficult lesson, but a good lesson to learn. Um, Now, the other side of things, and this is one that I'm still struggling with, and this is after all these years. The administration part of the business is something that, because of fear and because of being, not wanting to give up control, I still do a lot of the bookkeeping myself. And that is something that I know I should give up. And so one of my goals for 2025 actually is to get a bookkeeper in here that will take over some of that. I just, as we're getting some bigger projects, I just find myself stretched too thin. And that's something that I can bring somebody in. And so, again, a goal for 2025.
Oh, that's great. And yeah, it's a good lesson too. So whether you're the business owner or whether you're, an executive woman in another, in a business or organization that you don't own, knowing like what you're best at and what your role
Mhm.
is and your genius, and
Right,
and then recognizing when you're taking over other people's roles, or you're spreading yourself too thin,
Mhm.
and not staying in your zone of genius. That can be a hard lesson, especially executive women tend to be high achievers, and
Right. We
um,
can do everything.
yeah, right. And kind of want to make sure that things go well. And
Mhm.
so, sometimes feeling like, you have to have too much control, but you're not then growing your team because you're not trusting them and letting them be in their zone of genius. If you were a part of the hiring process,
Right,
for people that you're leading, then it's important that you trust that you hired the right person and that you
right.
coach them right through whatever skills or things that they need to learn and do better with
Mhm.
versus trying to take it over from them.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, With that in mind, do you have any kind of particular philosophy or style that you've developed with regard to leading other people?
I think probably something that I do, and I do this across the board with any type of relation with anybody, is I always, and something I taught my son since he was little, you always give others the benefit of the doubt. It's so easy when somebody doesn't do what you want them to do or behaves in a way that's kind of takes you aback or says or does something that you just don't approve of is wait a second, don't jump to the conclusion of the negative, they've done the wrong thing. It's like, wait, pull back and give them the benefit of the doubt. What exactly did they mean by it? And is this a learning period, a learning thing? So everybody in our office knows that we don't expect perfection, but we expect honesty. So if you make a mistake, we expect you to let us know and then we'll work it out. But um, don't hide things.
Mm,
There's greater, bigger consequences from hiding something than from making a mistake because we all make the mistakes. And when we make mistakes, we make sure that everybody knows that was on me and I blew it and this was a major thing. But everything can be resolved if you handle it from as early as possible. So that for me has been a real important philosophy to let everybody know. Again, I don't expect perfection, but honesty. And
yeah.
that's how we treat the clients. They know sometimes deadlines are missed, mistakes are made, but we'll be honest with you and we'll let you know. We won't hide it and we'll make sure that it gets worked out and
Mm,
it gets resolved and we'll go the extra mile to get it resolved.
yeah. That's such a great and valuable lesson, Georgie. Um, and a part of that then is building a culture of trust, right?
Hmm.
Like you said, it goes both ways, right? For you and your husband as well as for your employees, that
Hmm.
it's you're open, you're honest, you admit when there is a mistake, and you do it early on so that you can
Hmm.
course correct quickly before it gets bigger, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And recognizing that everybody has their own strengths and their own weaknesses. Um, and this starts from the very core. So, yeah, my husband and I have worked together for many years, and people go, how do you work together with your husband? Well, because I know what his strengths are, and he knows what my strengths are, and we trust each other with those. So, for the sake of the bill of the business, he needs to be doing what he's the best at because that's what's going to benefit the business. And for the sake of the business, I need to have the freedom to work on what I'm best at. And so we recognize each other. He has this funny saying. He says we stay out of each other's litter box.
I love that.
So we have our individual messes that we stay in, and that's we know. And the only times we've had conflict, and it's I can point the specifics, has been when we've overstepped. When I have tried to step into his area of expertise, or he has tried to step over into my area of expertise. And so it'll happen, and then we'll go, wait a second, no, 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 time out. That's not what we're about. We need to pull back and go, okay, this is your project. You make that decision. You are managing that project. Whoever's running that project has the say on things. And yes, I'll hear what input the other person might have because sometimes you miss things, but the final decision and the final choice is by the person that's running the project. And just being aware of that and realizing that it's for the better of the business.
Mm, great point. So I'm curious, what does a typical day look like for you, starting in the morning and any kind of morning routine that you have, and then, going to work, going through your
Mhm.
day, and then, you know, cutting off from work and going home. What are some of maybe the habits or the strategies, the typical kinds of things that you do to, um, manage your day well?
Mm. The workday is, and there's never a typical day. Now, I usually try to start it the same way every day at home. And lately, I've been because I'm getting over colds and everything, my routine has been totally a mess. But normally I get up like around 6 a.m. and then I don't turn on any lights and I sort of walk and I go into my office, which is also I have like a mat on the floor. And so I'll do some prayer while I'm doing stretching also. I'll do some, and then I may do some exercises, but nothing heavy or strenuous. And so I'll spend about half an hour doing stretches and a slow workout, and then I'll spend time in prayer, and then I'll.
I'm curious, what does starting your day like that do for you? What's the benefit of having that kind of morning routine for you?
It grounds me. So it grounds. It's a way of starting. On the one hand, the movement sort of wakes me up, but the fact that I still do it in the dark, even if it's dark outside, I still will not turn on lights. There's usually enough lights from the street lights or whatever that you can see what you're doing. It's not that you're in like in total darkness. Um, but it's a slow start, but it's a movement start. So my body's moving and I'm just getting into it. But then, doing praying and listening to maybe some prayers that I'm doing with an app or something that I'm listening to, whether it's I don't know, the readings of the day or some scripture or something, and then I'll just meditate on that, and that just it centers me and it grounds me, and then I can sort of like get going with the day, and then I'll just get ready, and we have a group of women from church that usually prays together from 9 to 9:30, and so I try to do that as much as I can depending on my schedule. Some days it just does not work out, so I'll try to do that every day, and then the day starts and it's totally different every day.
Yeah.
Some days I have to go to site meetings, and right now I have a project that we're doing some site observations, so I may have to go on site for that, or I'll have an event that I have to go to, or I'll have to run to the office for a meeting, or I just need to do bookkeeping, it's payroll. So yeah, every day is,
Mhm.
and then at the end of the day, usually just start winding down at around 9:30. And again, it's just the process of winding down, going slowly, and then I'll get into bed. I try to stay away from the phone for an hour before going to bed because it's really not good for you.
Yeah.
So I try my best to stay off the computer. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then when I get in bed, I usually do some reading for at least about half an hour. And again, just listen to something that's soothing and then try to be asleep by 11 at the latest.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the ending and the beginning are usually very structured and the same, but
Mhm.
everything in between is can be totally different. So some days I can come to the office in my jeans and sneakers, and some days I have to be totally dressed up because I might have a board meeting.
Mhm.
And I'm on so many different boards and things, or there might be a luncheon or some other event, and so I have to, it depends. Yeah, I never know.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like with the middle of your day being very different all the time, that having the structure of the morning and the evening,
Hmm.
it's kind of, it's that good bookend. So, if we have too much variety, we can be kind of all over the place. And if we've too much structure, we feel, too sort of
Right.
in. So sounds like you've got a good balance there. And you start your day in the right mind frame, and then you let your mind and your body sort of, quiet down before
Hmm.
you try to get to sleep. A lot of people are going 100 miles an hour, and then they get in bed and they expect to be able to
Right.
really shut their brain down, and they have a really hard time. So it's great that you've developed that habit for yourself.
Yeah, no, I found I need to that reading at the end of the day. And it might not be a lot because by then I might be really tired, but just even if it's just like half a chapter of something,
Mhm.
that always just feels settling. Yeah.
So when you have to make a hard decision in your role as the, leader of your company, are there
Hmm.
any particular guidelines or values that you rely upon to help you with making hard decisions?
Yeah, again, I think, like I mentioned before, as far as like honesty and truthfulness is just, I think when you want to be honest and truthful, that is a really good guideline to what you're going to have to do. Because in the end, hard decisions, you can try to avoid them or you can try to sort of twist them or try to manipulate them. But if you just say, I just need to be honest and this is the best thing to do, and it might be the hard thing to do, but if it's the truthful thing to do, then um, that's the choice. There's a, we say if it's if it's true and if it's if it's honest and if it's surrounded, I mean, as an architect, if it's beautiful, and beautiful is not just for aesthetics, but beautiful as in if it is something that brings life, then um, those are good guidelines. Does
Mm,
it meet those guidelines? And
yeah.
hard choices, you always usually know what the right thing to do is. The hard thing is convincing yourself that it is the right thing to do. But if
Mhm.
you know that in the end you're going to do the right thing, just do it as quickly as possible. And I think honestly that that's the hard part is not delaying, but making the choices and making the decisions sooner rather than later. I don't know that we make a different decision. I think what's hard is saying, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. This is what needs to happen. Let's just do it now and avoid the angst of the delay and of the stretching it out.
Right. Yeah. So once you know what the decision is or the action is to not continue to second guess it and beleaguer it, but just
Hmm.
pull the band-aid and have it behind you as quick as possible.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I focus a lot in my work as an executive women coach on resilience
Hmm.
and ways to bounce back easier and faster from challenges and setbacks. I provide some different tools to be able to do that, but sometimes it's again tapping back into in particular individuals' strengths or values to help them,
Hmm.
figure out what resources are going to be beneficial. Can you share about a significant challenge or setback that you experienced in either your business or your life, and what resources or mental shifts helped you to recover from that?
Hmm. Um, Probably one of the hardest things um was in 2019. I was diagnosed with lung cancer.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that was very unexpected, just very unexpected and totally out of nowhere. Um, and my first instinct was, we're going to keep this quiet. We're not going to talk about it. And I told everybody at the office, okay, we're keeping this quiet. Nobody's going to know. And I'll just go through this. And um, looking back, I'm not sure that that was the best decision, but it was the decision I felt was the right one at the time. People close to me knew, and so I had a lot of support. But dealing with it was very hard. And then there's not only the physical, but the emotional, and then the mental of it. And getting to the place, thankfully, very thankfully, I had an amazing, amazing support team. And so, because it was found very early, it was all taken care of through surgery, but surgery was not easy, and surgery had some pretty major complications. So I was in ICU for like, I think 3 or 4 days, um, because of complications. And once I got out, then it was a matter of rebuilding my body, my stamina, my mind, and the my oncology nurse said, realized I went back for my follow-up and walking into the building, it was the Centara Heart Hospital, and I walked in and I started having an anxiety attack. And I realized, oh my gosh, it's because this place. And I sat down and I told her, then she says, you might need to get a little bit of assistance with this. And so being open to talking, sometimes you need to talk. It's good to have friends and it's good to have family, but sometimes what you need to share needs to be shared with somebody that's not family or friends because they're not as emotionally involved in who you are and not as concerned with you, but they can be more of a
Objective.
sounding board and you feel freer to share things that you don't want to concern the other person that is a loved one. And so that was very helpful. And so realizing that I needed to be open about it and sharing with this, I saw it was not exactly a counselor, it was part of like the support system that Centara has. And so it was great. I saw this young woman several times, a couple of times a week, and just visited, and it was really helpful. And then afterwards realizing that you sometimes need to let people know this is what I've been through. And so being able to share and say, okay, we all go through different things that are very hard, and it's okay to know that I was at a very felt very vulnerable, and but I survived, and this is on the other side, and now it's more of a being an advocate for be aware of things in your health. Don't let things go by. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself, and it's going to be okay. You get to the other side. It
Yeah.
was interesting because I didn't have any major symptoms or anything. All I could think of was going for the surgery felt like I'm about to go and know that I'm about to get hit by a truck,
Yeah.
even though I don't feel like I'm fine, but
Mhm.
I'm about to go through this that I know is going to be like pretty difficult and horrific. And actually ended up being more difficult than I thought. Um, but the resilience and yes, the support of your family is really important. And my family, just like my son and my husband, were just like amazing. And everybody at the office just really rose up and took over. Nothing fell behind. Everything was taken care of. And I just felt really well taken care of. And being willing to receive help. Um, it was interesting because again, the ladies that I pray with in the mornings, they said, well, we're going to get you some food to your house. And I was like, no, 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 it's okay. We can take care of it. And we're like, no, 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 we'll bring you food. And it was one of the biggest blessings. The day after I got home from the hospital was the first time that they showed up and they brought like all these home cooked meals. And it was such an amazing blessing. And I was just floored, that a small detail meant so much because my husband didn't have to worry about his food, what he was going to do. I was being taken care of. We had something to eat, and just them coming and just visiting for like 5 minutes. And how are you doing? And you look great, and
Mm.
whatever. And then depending on how I felt, they would stay longer or not. And that was just really special. And at the beginning, I was like, no, 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 I don't need that. But their insistence, see, and trusting that friends sometimes know better than you do,
Yeah.
that
Right.
was a lesson right there.
Yeah. And just being willing to receive, right?
Yes, yes. Sometimes as strong women and executive women, we are the ones who give. We give, and I will take care of it, and I will do, and I will. But to then sit back in a position of, oh, wait, you're doing for me. It's like, yeah, but that's okay. That
Yeah.
doesn't make you any less or any weaker or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad that you highlighted that.
Hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't make you weaker. That and it actually it's giving back to you and people, who care about you want to be able to have something to do,
Something. Yeah.
right? For you
Yeah.
that feels like it's making a difference, right? So it's
Hmm.
also a gift to them to receive the gift that they're
Hmm.
offering.
Hmm.
So it's
Yes.
a big
Yeah.
lesson, especially again for us, women and high achievers.
Right.
So we've just got a couple of minutes left, Georgie. I want to have you share kind of maybe a fun, fun thing. So,
One thing.
is there something you've done in your life that's very unique, or people would be surprised, or it's, it's something that not everybody has done that you'd like to share about?
Mm. It's funny because I feel like in some ways I'm heading towards the end of my career. And I was looking back and thinking, I've had a really blessed life. I've done a lot of adventures and I've done a lot of fun things. And um, as a young woman growing up in Puerto Rico, um, there was a lot of freedom in that environment of exploring and of being allowed to be creative and do art, and that was a lot of fun. And then I spent several years as a dancer, and that was a lot of fun. And I think in some ways,
What
both of
kind of
those
dancing was it,
I
Georgie?
did. It was of course I did the ballet and all of that for the structure, but the dancing, the performance was more in a modern jazz type dance. And learning how to move in space, I think was very, very helpful for architecture. And for understanding that architecture is about space and about the space we occupy. And one of my favorite terms, propriocentrism, which is the sense, we think of only five senses, is the other sense that knows that where you know where you are and where your hands are is what allows you to have eye-hand coordination, is
Mhm.
propriocentrism, the understanding of this is where I stand in space. And that's very much something that architects can play with and work with. Um, so yeah, so that's been fun. And I don't know, just the adventures of living in so many different places. I was wild and in many ways very innocent 16-year-old living in Mexico City. I was living at my grandparents and going to my third year of high school in Mexico City. And I would take the train from one end of the city to the other by myself. And it was such an adventure. And I'm thinking, gosh, how many people get to do that? And a totally different culture and a different world. And um, that was fun. So, and being able to go to school, to college in architecture school in New York City, I mean, it was like walking the cities of New York was an education in itself.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was amazing. So just looking back and realizing so many wonderful, wonderful fun experiences and getting to meet so many wonderful people and my life in Madrid and Spain. Spain is always the country in my heart. My family on both sides actually comes from Spain. On my dad's side, I also have we're the mix, we're the jumbo, the very Puerto Rican of I have some native and some African and some uh Taino and some Spanish on my dad's side. But on my mom's side, my mom is
Yeah.
like 99% from Spain. She was born in Spain, and so I have dual citizenship.
Great. So,
But
Georgie,
yeah,
I'm just looking at the time here. We've got like
yeah.
less than a minute before we get uh,
Okay, yeah. So
before we get
that's
out.
my fun story.
So yeah, so so eclectic. I love that. I love everything that you shared with us today. Some really great tips and pointers and gems that we're taking away from today. So thanks for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you. It
Look
was
forward to
fun.
seeing you out and about at some of the
Yes.
executive women gatherings
Hmm.
that I'm hosting. And until next time, for my viewers. Thanks for showing up and being interested. And if you know somebody who might be a great guest on the podcast, just let me know. So thanks again, Georgie. Have a great day.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks for joining me on The Everyday Executive Woman. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe or bookmark this channel, leave a review, and share it with another executive woman who could use some encouragement. Remember, you don't have to be perfect to be powerful. Just be you. Until next time, keep grounded, keep growing, and keep taking care of you.